Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Cinnamon Stitches. Today is yarn review time. I've kind of been getting into the yarn reviews lately and I'm not mad about that at all. I'm kind of having a good time. So this is a new yarn that is on the market. It is from Yarnspirations. It is a red heart yarn called Granny Square all-in-one. No color switching, keep on stitching. Now, I've seen a couple videos pop up. There's a lot of buzz about this in my Facebook group, a lot of buzz. People were questioning, have you heard of it? Have you seen it? Can you find it anywhere? I'm going to answer some questions. I've also had some people bring up concerns, and we are going to discuss those as well. And maybe even troubleshoot some things. Now, this stuff is ridiculously overpriced because it's just a basic acrylic yarn. However, I'm going to say this. It was about a year or two ago, and one of my followers on Instagram actually contacted me, and there was a new yarn to him out, and he asked me to review it, but I found the price tag to be offensive, so I never ordered the yarn, even though I thought it was cool. It was the same type of idea where the color work is done for you in the ball. You can create granny squares up to 5 rows, so 5 by 5 granny squares roughly. The yarn was in like the $20 range, I believe. I can't find that yarn to show that to you because it was like a year or two ago. But he did ask me if I would review it for him because he didn't want to put out the money to try that yarn out if he didn't like it, and I didn't want to either. So I didn't purchase it. So the same thing here is it was $11.99 for a self-striping acrylic. Okay, yes. The idea is really cool that it's supposed to have a line of yarn that is big enough for a granny thing, for a row of grannies. Now, I grabbed 3 colors because I want to play with this for more than just like your basic granny squares. I'm thinking like I want to try this out for different techniques than just a granny square and see what it looks like. I'm curious what this looks like for knitting and stuff. So I grabbed it in 3 colors. Now I'm going to say this, I have trouble with the Red Heart Super Saver, and because this didn't say Super Saver on it, it just said Red Heart, I'm hoping that it doesn't react with my skin the way Red Heart Super Saver does. Otherwise I'm not going to be able to use this yarn at all. However, it feels like a basic acrylic. Until I work with it, I'm not going to know whether it bothers my skin like Red Heart Super Saver does. And to give you guys an idea, because there's like constantly new people streaming in, I have an issue with my skin. You will see my fingers are always like cracked around. No matter what I do, they're always cracked around here. But also I get eczema breakouts where my immune system attacks my hands and I get these horrible like all over blisters. My skin also cracks and bleeds with the use of some yarns. Red Heart Super Saver has been extremely difficult to work with, so I just steer away from it. So that is all factored into my opinion on the feel of the yarn, and some people have 0 problems with Red Heart Super Saver. So I'm just giving you review from my perspective as someone who has a medical problem that is affected by some chemicals, some fabrics, some yarns, some textures. So that's, you know, a little just so that everybody knows, okay? This is made by Yarnspirations. I ordered these from Yarnspirations. They were $11.99 for 400 yards, 417 yards, which is, I mean, it's got good yardage on it. It definitely does. There are other videos from people who actually work with Yarnspirations that I will link, specifically the Crochet Crowd. Mikey does an in-depth review, at least I think it's in-depth. I haven't watched the video because I wanted my mind to be free of anyone else's opinions. So I don't watch videos before I make my review videos because I want my reviews to be my reviews and not influenced by other people's opinions. And Mikey does work with Yarnspirations, so he may have more information than I have in this video. I'm going to link him and his video below so you guys can get a more well-rounded opinion of this yarn, because at $11.99 the price is really steep and I can't justify that for making granny squares. Granny squares, especially the multicolored granny squares, are typically made with scrap yarns, and traditionally granny square blankets like from I don't know, the 70s and earlier, they were just different colors pieced in together. And I say the 70s and earlier, they were widely popular in the 70s. I have a ton of books from the 60s and 70s that were just granny square heavy, okay? I have a book that's dedicated just to granny squares. When I do granny squares, I tend to do them in a variegated yarn or a solid color yarn and just do different solid colors for each square. I don't mess with this. Every row is a different color with granny squares. I don't do it. I don't like weaving in ends. I don't like, it's a lot of hassle to me. I have done it. I don't like it. So I like the idea of this yarn a lot. So the colors that I got is Soft White Frigid. Okay, this is Soft White Frigid. I don't think that is the name that was listed on the website though, but I'm not sure. Maybe it was just Frigid. So it's got white with varying shades of blue and like a tealy color. It's very pretty. And I'm looking forward to working these up. I bought the next two because like Valentine's Day is coming and they reminded me Valentine's Day. This one is Hot Stuff. So it's white with what looks like a periwinkle color with a brick red and a corally pink. It's very pretty. It's not the softest yarn, but it's pretty. And this one is Pink Punch, so it's very similar to the Hot Stuff, except instead of the corally pink, it's more like a bubblegum pink. So you could probably put these in a project together and get like a pretty cute looking blanket. I'm going to start off with the blue. Now, I'm going to pull a bunch out because my fear is that it's not started on the smallest color. My fear is that I'm going to have to color control. So I need to see, actually, the picture says the smallest color is the green. So that is the color that started. You know what? This label also says there's instructions on the inside. So let's pull the label off and see what the label says. Care, machine wash, warm, gentle, cycle, tumble dry. Do not over dry, do not iron, do not bleach, professionally dry clean. For best results, on fringe, hand wash, lay flat to dry. I have a blanket made out of Red Heart Super Saver with fringe, and like the fringe has all like kind of connected itself to itself. All right, let's see. Some of the questions I had were, does it make a difference if you do the chain one in between the granny squares? So we're going to test that out. I think gauge is going to be a huge issue, and what hook you use is going to be a huge issue. So this is a pattern. There's two patterns in here. It doesn't... Let me see if I read that right. It says step-by-step instructions on the back, which I assumed would be for making the granny squares, and it's not. It's for the built-in vest crochet t-shirt thing. And it's in English and looks like French. Alright, so we're just going blind. We're going blind. The hook size recommended for this is 5.5. I have a 5.5 and a 5mm out here because I tend to have a loose gauge and I don't want to like pull the stitches really tight because that causes pain on my hands, and I'm not willing to do that. So I'm just going to go through and I'm going to make a granny square the way I normally do, which is without the space in between. 2, 3. This is not a tutorial, so I'm not giving you guys instructions as I crochet. I'm just going to give you opinions. This feels just like Red Heart Super Saver. So that's a corner that needs 2. I may have problems with this yarn. 2 and 3. Ooh, I got a squeaky hook, guys. I know somebody's going to complain. Resin and acrylic are sometimes squeaky together. It's two plastics rubbing together. You will also hear my wind chime. It is windy outside. The wind chime is right outside my door. I never make apologies for that wind chime. That wind chime has very sentimental value to me, and it will always be right there. All right, 1, 2, 3. I need one more. All right, so color didn't line up perfectly. I think that's going to be a major problem. And this is a 5.5 and I have loose tension. So I may need to go up a hook size to get that tension right. Let's see if I have a 6mm handy. This is a 6mm. And this is something you may have to do. And this is one of the things that was brought up in my Facebook group, is that they don't want to have to keep ripping it out to get the colors just right. And I totally understand that. I think once you get your gauge down and you kind of get a good flow going and you figure out what your gauge should be according to this yarn, I think it will help to get each square uniform, but I think there's always going to be problems. I think you're going to have to play with it and make sure you figure out your gauge first. And that's, a lot of people don't know what gauge is. Gauge is just how loose or how tight you crochet. It's how big your stitches are per inch. And depending on how loose or how tight you crochet will definitely make a difference here. I went up a hook size and it still has some left over. All right, let's see. That's really close though. So if we take and we slip stitch over instead of doing like I normally do, which was turn and go the other way, it is perfect. All right, so I needed a 6mm. You might not. You're gonna have to have multiple hooks by you. 5mm, 5.5, 6, maybe even 6.5 if you crochet really tight. That wasn't terrible. That was just a matter of me going up a hook size. And I am doing this without the space in between for this row. So when you do a granny square, you have the option of doing the granny and then a chain one here and then go to the next side and do a granny. I don't tend to do that because I don't like the gap in between. So I don't put spaces there. That's going to make a difference. I'm going to be real honest, you guys. I walked into this not expecting to like this yarn. So if I like it, which I'm kind of enjoying the way these colors contrast like that, I'm going to be surprised. I don't like the feel of the yarn. The yarn is rough. And I think using this yarn long term is going to cause my skin to act up. I can guarantee it because it's giving me a little bit of irritation even right now. But I really like the way the color is looking. And if it's not too difficult getting the colors to line up, I mean, I'm there for it, right? Look at that. That was perfect. That blows my mind. All right, so for me, using a 6mm hook and no spaces in between got me exactly perfect. Okay. Now, let's work on a, you know what? Let's make a full granny square. We're we're going to turn this time because the color's already there. 2, 3. It's like a little bit of magic there. That was crazy. I really expected to have to frog this a bunch. It's all going to be a matter of you finding your gauge. It's going to be a major factor with this yarn. Let me pull out some more yarn. And then we'll do another one. And we will, we're going to put the space in between, but we're going to put the space in between and test it whether we're going to need it. Because if you put a space in between, because I'm using a bigger hook, 6mm, to get that space in between, I might have to go back to a 5.5. But that very first row is going to be an issue. So we're going to have to play with that and see. I'm a little bit gobsmacked that it worked so well for 2 rows. Let's hope this row works because it's looking like I'm running out of yarn. Granny squares for me are fun to do, and I like doing granny squares. The part I hate about granny squares is connecting them together. That's like, ugh. Yeah, see, we're running out of yarn. I don't think we're going to have enough to make it. Yeah. We're 1 stitch short of making that row. Let's try it again with a 5.5. Since now we got all warmed up, our stitches might need a little more room. Heard a beep like a package was being delivered, and Scarlett's reacting, so I'm wondering. Yep, that's the mail truck. I heard it. And my phone dinged, which tells me there's a package. Scarlett is my protector, so she's going to bark until she thinks the mail lady is all gone. And since I'm not really talking, I'm just stitching right now, that's alright. You guys can listen to the dog bark for a minute. It's funny because she's probably upstairs barking over the balcony. She's not even at the front door. She'd be real loud if she was at the front door because the front door is right outside my office door. 1, 2. I like the colorways of this yarn a lot. And I like this effect. I think it's going to be a little bit tedious making sure that your gauge stays the same throughout. I think it's going to be a little bit tedious making sure that you have the right crochet hooks on hand. And as you can see, it's trying to curl up on me because I'm using a smaller hook on the outside stitches. See, I went down a hook size and we're still just shy of making that work. Just shy. So gauge is going to be a huge, huge factor with this yarn. And So far, using the recommended hook size, I'm not able to put a space in between. So if you're one of those people that put a space in between, if you go down a hook size even to like a 5mm hook, that might work for you. And that seems like that's something you're going to have to do if that's the case. All right, let's try this next row with a 5.5mm hook. This might be good if you just absolutely have to have like a granny square project you need to do. And you hate weaving in all them ends and you hate crocheting over the ends. I'm just pulling more yarn out. Pulling out enough yarn to get through the row. And you want it to be like this every row's a different color situation, which I don't tend to do because I find that fiddly and a lot of work. I like the idea of this yarn. I think if you're willing to really focus on, this could be a really good meditative product, okay? Where you're sitting there and you're crocheting, but like you need to think about what you're doing. So you need to think about your stitches, you need to think about your tension, you're concentrating on what you're doing, but it's not like a mind melder. It's not like making you stress out because you're thinking so hard. It's just something you can meditate on while you're doing this. Like you could meditate, you could like whatever you do to calm your mind. For me, I find this actually soothing. Having to concentrate. I don't mind frogging stuff back when it's a small row, because it's not like you're frogging back 3 rows of 150 stitches, right? You're frogging back 1 row that takes maybe 2 minutes to crochet back. So for me, frogging is not an issue, but I know that was a huge issue in the Facebook group. Is I don't want to keep frogging it back if it doesn't work, and I totally understand that because that could be very frustrating. There's a little dark spot on the yarn right there. I don't mind that. That's common with Yarnspirations yarns, is when they have multiple yarns like this, there'll be like muddiedness or dark, like dirtiness, where like some of the yarn from another color gets on those. I don't mind that, but some people hate it. Like I said, this is very super savory. If you don't like the feel of Super Saver or working with Super Saver, you're not going to like this, especially not at $11.99. I have only found this available through Yarnspirations.com as of the recording of this video, which is December 18th. I'm wondering if that first row was extra long to take into consideration the fact you're going to use either a magic loop or a chain 4. So I think for the next one we'll do a chain 4 and we'll see if that makes a difference, and then we'll put the chain 1 spaces in between and see what happens, because inquiring minds want to know. My cinnamon buns specifically want to know. I feel like I'm really running it close again, and I don't know if we're going to make it to the end. Because that's definitely not 3 stitches worth. That was 1 stitch. So gauge is a big factor, and I was crocheting kind of tight in that row. Gauge is a major factor. Alright, what we're going to do is we're going to go, I wonder if I should go down to a 5. Let's try going down to a 5. We'll start with this color, which is Hot Stuff. I didn't even finish the 5 because there's supposed to be a white row around this, because I didn't have enough, and I don't want to frog that. This is like a real world test, guys. Alright, I'm pulling some yarn out here. We're going to do this one with a 5mm hook. And we're going to start with a chain 4 because some crochet hooks, or some patterns call for that. And some people don't know how to do magic loops, so I'm going to take that into consideration as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is another way you can do a granny stitch. All right, 1, 2, 3. Three, chain 2, Alright, so with a 5mm hook and the chain 4, or the chain 5, I still had a lot left over. So let's go back to the 5mm hook, or the 5.5mm hook, and see if that makes a difference. Got crochet hooks everywhere. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Slip stitch. Chain 1, 2, and 3. Two more double crochets. Chain 2. So it's a good possibility that that extra for the first row that we had all times we started this was meant for the chain 4 instead of a magic circle. Magic circle takes up less yarn. And maybe that's what their idea was, is that it was for a chain 4 start instead of a magic circle. That was about perfect. So with a 5.5mm hook and a chain 4 start, we just about got that perfect. 3. Let's try this next row and see if it works. 2. I don't like this middle color next to that purple. That is not pretty. It's like a burgundy. Or like a dark Cabernet. And we're going to do a chain 1 in between, just as a test, and see what happens. Because I was asked, what's the difference if you put a chain 1 in there or not? Now you're going to see. I also think I want to see what this looks like in corner to corner. So I think when we're done with this granny square testing, I want to see what this looks like in corner to corner, because I'm working on a corner to corner currently. And I was thinking, like, if this does the granny squares like that, it might have like a cool effect in corner to corner. That was the mailman again, delivering another package. I'm really hoping they're delivering the other package that I ordered for reviews that has not come yet. That would be fantastic. That's what I'm waiting on. Oh, see, and we just made it, and we didn't put a chain 1 in this last space. So we're going to skip the chain 1 here just so that we can make it work. 1, 2, 3. Try to crochet a little tighter with this row, which means I have to slow down. Chain 1. Chain 1. It's also rubbing way harder on my skin, which I'm not loving the feeling of, because I'm having to pull tighter for my tension, because I use this to tension. I like pull this and I pinch here. So I pinch here and I pull here. So it drags tight on really sensitive parts of my skin. Still think this would be a really cute like little Valentine's blanket. I don't know why, for some reason I really like granny squares for Valentine's Day. I made a blanket for my baby niece that was for Valentine's Day. It was half granny squares and it was also the heart granny squares from Jujus Stitches, and it was just cute. And I also did like granny stitch on the bottom, and it was in pink and white because she was a little baby girl, you know. And Valentine's Day and granny squares go together for me because of that. So that's why I grabbed 2 of the what I consider to be Valentine's Day colors. I like that the colors that I ordered, I don't remember if all of the colors, because there was way more colors. I don't remember if all of the colors have the white border, so the white is the outermost color of the square. I don't know if all of the colors were like that, but I like that these have that, because then you can use white, like just a basic white, and sew the squares together, because most people have white. Alright, so doing a tighter gauge with the 5.5 millimeter gave me too much yarn. It gave me too much. Too much by about a double crochet stitch. So that's going to be the main problem, is just getting your gauge proper. It's a little bit frustrating. It's a little bit frustrating trying to get that right. And there's ways you could fudge this, okay? So I could take and I could use up that extra color and slip stitch backwards. And then my stitch right here will be in the right color. So, I mean, I guess if you did that, that's not horrible. That's not having to frog it back, right? So I guess that would work if you slip stitch back and forth to take up excess. But also, like, if you don't have enough, that's more of a bigger problem. So you're gonna have to really watch your tension. I think I'm trying to debate whether it's worth it to mess with. I'm really going through all my thoughts in my head at this time. Is it worth the extra effort trying to control your tension to avoid weaving in ends? I think, yeah, because I hate weaving in ends that much, and a lot of people I know hate weaving in ends. So if you look at it in that regard, it's worth the extra effort to watch your tension and maybe frog back a little bit. Because it's certainly not like you're playing yarn chicken and you have 3 or 4 stitches left and you have no yarn left, okay? You can frog it back a couple if you don't have enough yarn, and you could actually make your stitches a little tighter for the past couple stitches, and you could squeak by and make it work. You absolutely could. You can change your hook size. You can change your hook size for each row if you need to. But only go up like a half a millimeter. There's lots of things you could do. You could fudge it by, if you have too much color, to slip stitch across stitches to use up that extra color. You can do all of those things. Is it worth it in the long run to take all that extra time and worry about that? I don't know. You're going to have to decide that for yourself. Is it worth your effort? Is it worth your time? For me, I hate weaving in ends. And if I wanted to make a granny stitch project that is multiple color like this, and all of the squares will look uniform with the colors, I think, yeah, it's worth it. It will save you time in the long run from weaving in ends and worrying about like all of that. But a lot of people are going to look at this yarn and go, nope, I'm not doing all that. That's too much. I want to sit and just enjoy my crochet. Some people hate granny squares altogether, so they're not even going to care about this yarn. And it's not that they hate granny squares, it's that they hate, because granny squares are fun to make. You can make 100 of them in like a short amount of time. The problem with granny squares is sewing them together. That's what a lot of people have a hard time with. It's what I have a hard time with. I hate sewing crochet together. I would rather crochet it together, which you could do. I've done that too. I hope you guys don't mind this format where it's not like, it's just me watching me crochet and talk about what I'm crocheting, because this video is going to be kind of long just because of the process it takes to make all of this stuff. I just want you guys to really see what it actually works up like in real time. And see, I'm a stitch short again. Let's make this a little tighter. See if we can help fix that. I'm doing these stitches real tight to try to use up slightly less yarn so we can get that extra stitch squeaked in. See if that'll work. It worked almost like a perfection. Alright, so 5.5 millimeter works better if you're doing the chain one space in between. 6 millimeter works better if you're not doing the chain one in between. The difference is minimal. See how you can see a little bit of a space, a little bit bigger space, whereas this is more of a closed off. I prefer this look. There's nothing wrong with this. Like, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Tension is going to be a major factor. I'm going to do the last row with white. I am going to try to crochet tight so that we can make sure we get all the way around so we can get a good idea of what this actually works up like. It's crazy that that one little chain one space in between all those squares makes such a big difference that you have to go up a half a hook size. You know? I think if and when you can catch this yarn on a sale is going to be a much better like a much better deal for you guys, because I think $11.99 is ridiculous for acrylic yarn. I would not pay that unless I was doing a review on my channel. It's the only reason I bought this yarn. I would not ever pay $11.99 unless I was doing a review on it. I'm also going to say I am not affiliated with Yarnspirations at all. Yarnspirations is not even in my top 5 yarn companies. It's not that there's anything wrong with Yarnspirations. It's just they are not yarn that I reach for. They are not yarn that I buy frequently. You very rarely see Yarnspirations on my channel. It's just not my favorite. I don't have anything personally against them. It's just not my favorite. So What you're getting is an honest review from an honest person who's like, hey, this is what I honestly think. I think it's overpriced. I think it's rough. I think it's really cute and it's a lot of fun to play with. I think I'm going to have fun playing with this yarn. I'm just going to have to keep lotioning up in between using it because of my personal skin problems. And I really love the idea of doing the granny squares like this, because I like that every row is a different color. I love the aesthetic of that. I think it's beautiful that every row is a different color. And I love that I don't have to weave in any stinking ends, right? So those are the things I love, but it's not a perfect yarn. It's not. And although I don't think there is a perfect yarn. I mean, there's a lot that are close, but yeah. If you like working with granny squares, this may be something you're going to want to try when it's on sale. Got a tangle. Just controlling how loose or how tight you crochet is a big deal. A big deal with this yarn. But it could also be meditative to really think about how you're holding the yarn and the hook and how you're crocheting with it. It can be meditative. It can help you. For example, like if I'm feeling like really, really overstimulated, I need something that I can focus on that will calm me down. So I'll do granny stitches. That might not be the best time if I'm overstimulated, my brain is overworked. But if I'm feeling like I just want to sit down and just crochet, like I don't think it would be a problem to sit and concentrate and meditate on what I was doing and how I'm crocheting. I think that could be calming for me. I mean, not everybody's the same, but I feel like every row I'm playing yarn chicken though. Am I gonna make it? Am I gonna have enough color? I'm gonna have too much color. Alright, we got 3 stitches left. Let's see if we can squeak them in. 1, 2. We did it. Alright, so it's not terrible. And we have a little bit of white left over, which is beneficial for starting the next granny stitch. I mean, it's cute, right? It's cute. You just have to control tension. They're really cute. Alright, now what I would like to do is I would like to see what this looks like in something other than a granny stitch. Okay, I'm just going to do a quick sample. I'm not going to do like a whole big section, but I want to see what this looks like in corner to corner. And then in the future, I will probably play with this in knit, because I think this would be cute in a knit hat. You'll have different size thicknesses for stripes, like micro stripes and thicker stripes. Alright, I'm going to go up to the 6mm hook because I like this hook better. It's one of my favorite hooks. And because we're not worrying so much about gauge, we're just playing right now and we're doing corner to corner. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm just curious what this looks like. It's something else. And I know it totally defeats the purpose, right? It's supposed to be meant for granny squares. But a corner to corner is just like a big alternative to a granny square, right? It's got the cute little blocks. Granted, it's not 3 double crochets, it's 4, but wish my phone would stop going off. I'm very popular today. And we got a color change right there. The corner to corner blanket I'm currently working on is a variegated yarn. And that's what made me think of this, is because it color pools. So I just thought this would be like a neat to see what this looked like, because you're going to have blocks of color. Alright, since you don't need to see me crochet all this, and this video is already pretty long, I'm going to pause here. I'm going to finish up a sample, and I'll bring it back and show you guys. Alright guys, so I worked up a little corner to corner sample just to show you what this looks like in another format other than just a granny square. I kind of like this yarn. I think the colors are fun. I think you don't have to restrict it to... I just think this would be so cute as a little kid's blanket. I can see this for either of my young nieces. I think that they both would like the colors on this. Not the softest yarn. The price is too high, but my full review on this yarn is it's fun. I enjoy it. If I can catch it on a sale for under $8 a ball, I'm thinking $7 and under would be fantastic. I would probably buy more of it. Definitely irritates my skin because it's a typical Red Heart Super Saver yarn. It definitely causes irritation on my skin. I'm not blistered out yet. I'm not even really red except here a little bit, but it's rough. It's rough. And I know, don't comment that it gets softer when you wash it, because washing it is not going to help me to work with it. Okay? Every time I mention that Red Heart Super Saver is rough, people always say, it gets softer when you wash it. Yes, but I'm working with it and I'm not washing it before I work with it. Especially not at $11.99 a ball. I'm not putting in that extra work. But it's fun. It's fun. I like the way it looks. I like the way it works up. I think it's really pretty. I'm definitely going to use all three of these balls. I'm going to create stuff. I'm going to make stuff. I'm probably going to make squares of these two colors and put them together because I think that'll be a really fun blanket. I also am going to knit with this yarn. I'm going to see what it looks like knit up in the future. So you will see that in an upcoming Monday Makes videos. But all in all, if you like making granny squares or corner to corners, I recommend trying to find this yarn on a sale in the upcoming future because it's new on the market. Like, it's only available on Your Inspirations. It's $11.99 a ball. I keep going back to that because I think $11.99 is an offensive price for this yarn. It's Red Heart Super Saver. It is a lot of fun to play with. And if it really stresses you out to frog back stuff and control your tension, you're going to hate this yarn, but I don't mind that. Also, I'm a designer, so I kind of do that anyway for fun, but I think this yarn's fun. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10, and I'm only taking points off for price and the fact that it's rough. But I really did enjoy this yarn, and that surprises me. It surprises me how much I enjoyed it. So, I will link other people's opinions on this yarn. Definitely I'm going to link Mikey from the Crochet Crowd because, like I said, he does work with Your Inspirations and he may have more information on this yarn and more tips and tricks to problem solve with this yarn. I haven't watched his video yet, but I'm still going to link it. Check him out. I know that Repeat Crafter Me also did a video on this yarn. And like I said, I haven't watched anybody else's videos because I wanted my opinions to be non-influenced by anyone else's. But this yarn is cute. The colors are cute. The idea of it's cute. And I enjoyed it. And I think my samples are adorable. And with that, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for hanging with me for this very long review video. Yeah, let me know your opinions in the comments. Would you buy this yarn if it was a cheaper price? Do you think this would be fun to play with? Do you have any further questions about this yarn that maybe I didn't answer? I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.